Could it be Toyota is collapsing? That's right, Toyota is actually warning customers of a potential data breach within their systems. But that's all humped on the back of a previous issue they had earlier this summer, where they actually forgot to back up half their data and they actually had to shut down production for an extended period of time, which meant hundreds of thousands of vehicles on the backlog that never made it to the market. Right, I'm starting to wonder if there seems to be a little bit of a trend here. Seems to be going on with their data control and their IT and their background. Allegedly, there have been some problems recently. Earlier, as I said, this summer, they had a situation where they were doing some work and some maintenance on some of their IT equipment, and they actually had a crack. The system shut down and they lost data and they could not retrieve it. The system essentially was in a position now where they could not continue production. They had to shut down the system for the weekend and essentially put many cars on the backlog. A lot of customers had to continue waiting. Now that may not sound like a lot, but when you're talking about tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of vehicles that are produced every day, what that does mean is just that many more customers are waiting that much longer. It just continues to push that back down. But it's not so much that people had to wait a little bit extra longer, an extra couple of weeks or an extra month or so. The fact remains, what is going on at Toyota headquarters? Because here's the latest. TFS, that's Toyota Financial Services, is actually claiming they had a bit of a mishap. That's right, basically a data breach, a safety security challenge, stating that sensitive personal information has been compromised. So Toyota Financial Services is subsidiary to Toyota Motor Corporation, as we all would expect, which is a global entity, and we all know that Toyota is one of the largest manufacturers on the planet for automotive sector. And it has this presence in which 90% of Toyotas and the markets where Toyota sells its cars provides auto financing for a lot of its customers. So actually last month, Toyota actually realized that they had an unauthorized access in their system, which largely impacted Europe and Africa, unfortunately, which followed a claim from Medusa ransomware about successfully compromising the Japanese automaker's division. Now, allegedly, there were some threat actors that actually held Toyota ransom and requested $8 million to be paid out in less than 10 days. And if not, basically, then they're up the creek. So once Toyota realized they had this unauthorized access, they locked down certain systems, which unfortunately limited some of their other business arrangements. And customer services in general took a little bit of a slowdown or a hit during that time frame. Now, presumably, Toyota has actually resisted paying that ransom, and now, word has it, all that data has been leaked onto Medusa's website, or extortion portal, if you will, and it's hit the dark web. Now, earlier this month in Germany, Toyota Credit Bank was alleged to be one of the impacted customers, and unfortunately, owners and people and customers within that space may be impacted by this. But how does that actually impact these customers? So German news outlet Heiss actually quoted there's several pieces of criteria that they were actually utilizing and exposing. For example, your full name, your address, contract information, lease and purchase details, as well as your international banking number. That can be pretty devastating and pretty impactful for any buyers or any customers that are on the receiving end of this particular theft. So you're asking, how does that actually impact you potentially? Well, worst case scenario, a lot of these scam artists, what they do is it does potentially impact you in a negative way by using that data for phishing expeditions, social engineering, scams, financial fraud. I mean, you've all received calls. We've all received phone calls where you get those weird calls or those texts that they come out of nowhere. Those are examples of what you could expect. And even in the worst case scenario, some identity theft impacts are potential here as well. So they may even try to pretend they're someone else, go in, acquire banking information, or do even worse. And of course, naturally, Toyota is engaged in this investigation. Unfortunately, the investigation isn't complete yet, and there's still word that it could extend even further outside of just those criteria which we explained. It could actually go beyond that and cause even deeper, harder impacts to a lot of customers. What a devastating turn of events. Now, currently, it's not been revealed by Toyota how many people are potentially impacted by this, but the fact remains it exists for many people. The other fortunate piece is there's no word yet whether it impacts other markets, for example, like North America or other parts of Asia. So at this point in time, it's restricted to Europe and Africa. Lockdown, hang on, watch for those notifications in the mail. Remember, legitimate accesses are not coming in. If you get a text or you get a phone call, that's not how you're going to be engaged. Remember, these people have some of our information, so you don't want to engage in those conversations. A legitimate email or a legitimate mail that comes in, definitely want to scrutinize it. Look for spelling errors, look for bad headers, look for grammar-related problems. I mean, a lot of these people, when they're doing this, they miss and they make mistakes in different places. So look for those details. Don't respond to texts and emails and phone calls. Obviously, there's going to be other engagement levels here coming specifically from Toyota themselves, possibly through the mail, but definitely be very, very diligent in opening up any kind of unknown information or emails or notifications. So unfortunately, like we say, you can never do too much, take too much precaution, and it's a sad day when Toyota, again, it's not even that you let your guards down, but unfortunately Toyota has proven that anybody is susceptible. So we had an IT breakdown, now we have this security breach. What's next? So clearly we've got to keep our heads on, screwed on a little tighter, make sure that we understand what we're getting into. Sometimes financial institutions, you go with your bank. That doesn't mean your own personal private bank can't be breached at some point too. Just so happens that Toyota Financial is the receiving end of this particular issue. So again, I hope that helps everyone. If you get some of that information in the mail, be very, very diligent. And above all, hope that helped you today. Please do sure to drop me a line. I'd love to hear if you know any more about this, or if you yourself have been on the receiving end of any of this security breach, or if you know anybody who has. I'd love to hear below. Do please comment. Hope to see each and every one of you on the next one. See you soon. Bye-bye.